Hi, welcome to Coffee with Tracey. I'm your host, Tracey Osborne. With me today is Carol Mortarotti, and we are going to talk about creating profitable niches. So that's a really, really important topic with business. I can't wait to dive into this. Let me tell you a little bit about Carol. I'm going to read her bio here. She is a former professional tennis player and one of the few women that worked on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. That is really cool. My mom used to watch tennis all the time.
Yeah, it was fun.
After being downsized in 2007 and realizing she had valuable work and life experience, she created the Expert Niche Academy, an online course that teaches you how to discover a profitable niche and become the go-to expert in your field. So thank you, Carol, for joining us. Welcome.
Welcome, and thank you so much. I really am so excited to be here and talk about something that's important to your audience, and hopefully it'll help them.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, how did you go from professional tennis player to New York Stock Exchange to teaching about niches?
Yeah, that's good.
Quite the transition.
I know. When I was young, I had two dreams. One was to play tennis, and the other was to work on Wall Street. So I just really put whatever I needed to do in motion. And anyone who knew me like growing up was like, oh yeah, you always had a tennis racket in your hand. But, Wall Street is very competitive like tennis is.
Yeah, I bet.
And so they really love to hire athletes. And there's a lot of it because you know what it takes. You do whatever it takes to to win. You have that drive. You're not sensitive, so you do know about losing and how to learn from that, and then pick up the pieces and do better next time. So when I stopped playing tennis, I knew I never wanted to teach tennis. So I just started interviewing for working on trading floors, which was just interesting because there are very few women. I think I first worked for Shearson Lehman on their bond floor, and there were five. I don't even think there were 5 women. Maybe there were 5 women out of 500 people at that time. So it was
wow.
It was a challenge.
Yeah, that had to be tough. Talk about playing in a man's world.
A real man's world.
Myself, and down here in the South, it was definitely the Girl Boys Network, and they resented the women for sure.
Yep.
So I can relate. So let's talk about what is a niche for those who don't really understand what that truly means.
It's something that's very specific. Let's say let's say if you're a dog trainer, that's just very general, right? So when you have a niche, you could say that your niche is that you train dogs that weigh 20 pounds or less. So it's a specific targeted audience that you're going to, help and cater towards.
And why is it important to have a profitable niche, or to figure out who that is?
Well, because you want to make sure there's a demand for it. So it's really important to do the research for that. Because, people come up with great ideas, but if there isn't a demand for it, then you're never going to make any money with that niche. So and with the internet today, it's so easy to go out and see if it's profitable. You can even look on Facebook or Amazon, or even go to dummies.com and see if people have, any books that they're selling, or there's any pages or coaches or services in that niche. So, you don't want to be the first one to come up with that niche. So it's important that there's a demand for it, so you make money.
Well, so for example, I coach. So why can't my niche just be small business owners?
It can be small business owners, but if you narrow down the niche even more, then you'll be more profitable. Because when you cater to all business owners, all small business owners, sometimes you're casting that net too wide. Mm-hmm. So if you narrow it down even more, people are so afraid to narrow down their niche, but they don't realize that when you do, the narrower you make it, actually the more profitable you'll be.
Right. And, and I ask these questions, I already know the answers to them because this is something that I teach as well. But so, for an example, when I was working as a virtual assistant and transferring into the online business management world, I decided that I wanted to niche and only work with people who were raw foodies, because my passion is the health and wellness industry, and I happened to have a raw foods coach that was a client, and that was like my new shiny new object. But when I really started looking into it, there was maybe a handful of people doing business that had profitable businesses that were raw foodists. It was too narrow of a niche. So I had to backspread and widen that out to just health and wellness professionals, so that, my net wasn't too small and it wasn't too wide as well. So that's kind of an example of, why you need to figure out where that niche is and if they are profitable or not.
And also I think the raw food was, it's at that time, maybe it was like too new.
It was.
Yeah, so that would be a reason.
So nowadays I could probably do it, and but back then there was only about 5 people that were really well-known raw foodists that had viable businesses. With my coaching, I specialize in virtual assistants, because that's where my background is. That's what I know. I know how to build a 6-figure VA business because I've done it. So I specialize in that. But, and I think, people are afraid to create that niche because they're afraid that, well, if I only work with VAs, I'm going to leave all this money on the table if a coach wants me to coach them. And they don't.
So true.
It is true. So how do you get over that mindset?
That's interesting, because I get asked that a lot. They're like, oh, but I'm going to leave all of these potential clients on the table. And, you just have to look at other coaches that do have like targeted niches and are very successful. That, you see it all the time, that people say that the narrower the niche, the more successful you'll be, because you can't coach everybody.
Right.
Your product isn't, people always want to think that everyone is going to need their product or service, and it just can't be, unless maybe you're Tony Robbins or someone like that. Like, it's just not possible. And, and that's okay, because there are plenty of people, if you've done your research and there's demand for it, there are plenty of people that you can, help with your product or service, that there's enough people in the world, because it doesn't even have to be local. Today, you can even work with people, around the world.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so easy. So there's no limitation on the amount of customers that you could have.
Right. Unless, maybe you're the local dry cleaner or something, but.
Yeah. But then, it's like in New York City, there's so many dry cleaners, and so you have to stand out. So a lot of the dry cleaners here that are doing well, I see that they promote that they only use like green products, or, they have to differentiate themselves.
Right. And that's because they're targeting their ideal customer, and their ideal customer wants that kind of thing. So let's talk a little bit about target audiences. And how do you figure that out? How do you figure out who? We're kind of talking about niching, but there's a little bit more to figuring out who your target audience is than just saying, I want to work in the health and wellness industry.
Yeah, it's really important to figure out who your target audience is and ideal client. It's important to like kind of put yourself in their shoes, like, where are they hanging out? What forums are they on? What age are they? What do they like to do in their free time? Just really kind of like create this avatar. And a lot of times people name their avatar and they know everything about them. Like, are they vegans? Do they work out? Or, and it's really important, because then you can, when you relate to them like that, when you start your marketing, you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to market to this area because I know that's where they'll be hanging out.
Right. Okay. So you hit something really important right there, is when you start marketing to them. And that's the whole reason why we're even having this call and figuring out who is your target audience, who is your niche, because once you know that, everything you do after that point is going to go solely to your target audience and your niche. So all of your marketing material, where you hang out, the language you use, the
Mm-hmm.
images, the colors. I mean, everything you do has to go towards your target audience.
Right. And, like they might like, like raw foods or whatever, but what are they also like? Like, are they into sports cars, or do they play golf, or, and it's, so when you do
Right.
when you are targeting them, you want to go around their lifestyle habits, and and that's how you'll find them. You don't only want to cater to people who like, say, that are vegans, because that's limiting, your target audience. So it's really important to spend some time researching this. And a lot of people, they don't like to spend the time to research, but it's like once you lay this foundation down, it just makes everything else so much easier.
I did a webinar yesterday, and the webinar is on So You Want to Work From Home, which is the name of my next book. And we covered this, we talked about this, and it is a lot of work, but it is so important. And it's a step that I skipped in the beginning as well, because I didn't know where to go or how to even figure out how to do this research. So one of the things that I suggest is that they set up some phone calls, with 5 or 10 of their potential target audience people, and you ask them questions. What keeps you up at night?
Exactly.
What do you want most out of what you're doing, and what drives you, and where are your challenges? These aren't sales calls. It's not a place to sell anything unless they specifically ask you, but that's a great way to gather your research.
Yeah, you really need to figure out like what their, say, top 5 to 10 struggles are, like what are their biggest challenges. And today it's easy. Like you can create a little poll maybe on Facebook and have people answer it. You can put out a Survey Monkey survey with just like 5 questions. Don't make it too long, so people,
right,
they'll see and be like, oh, it takes too long.
Yeah, give them a little gift, or it's some kind of an incentive for actually doing the survey. After they submit it, they get like a free report or something like that.
Yeah, you can go into like Facebook groups. You really need to hang out like where your target audience is hanging out, and kind of see what they're saying. Like, what are they saying that their challenges are? Because you want your product or service should be the solution to that.
Exactly. And if you don't know where these people are hanging out, or the groups aren't that great or whatever, create your own. That's what I did.
Exactly.
The groups that where the virtual assistants hung out, you couldn't self-promote. I couldn't, talk about it. And I get why, because those group owners that's their tribe. They want to use those groups because that's what I do in mine. So I just went out and created my own. So now I have my group, and it's great because anytime I have a new idea or a new thought, or, I'm not sure if this is going to resonate with them, I toss it out in my group all the time. I'll create a poll, I'll ask a question, and I get great feedback. People really want to help. And I'll go into some of my marketing groups too. Even questions for this podcast. I went into a podcast group that I'm in, and I asked poor women so many questions. It's like, do I do audio or video? And do I do this? Should I do this? What do you think? How does this, what is, because it's been 7 years since I've done my podcast. Things have changed a lot since then. Even though I manage podcasts, doing your own is a whole different story. So, you definitely go where your audience is at and ask them the questions. They want to help. They really do.
So true. They really want to help, and it's great because you're actually getting, honest answers. And I'm amazed at when I search something even in Google, like how many people respond to, questions that you type in, because I don't think I've ever posted, an answer to somebody's question on Google, but I'm thankful that everyone else does it.
I know. I've gotten some really, really interesting answers, especially technical stuff. It's like, my computer's doing this really weird thing, and there's already a forum with questions and answers in there. I mean, people love it. Everybody has an opinion, and they're dying to give it to you.
I know, and it's great because it saves you time and money.
Absolutely. It's free research, for sure. So, let's talk about what do you offer your target audience? How do you figure out what to even give them?
Everybody has strengths. I don't like to write that much. So for me, video is easier. It's really, it's easy to, I don't want to say easy, but some people like to write. So creating a little ebook is a good way, you know, with answers to their, say, top 5 challenges.
Mm-hmm.
You can create a little audio series. You can create a video series and put it on YouTube. You know, there you can have a little workshop. There are a lot of different, you know, products or services that you can create, but it has to be like what you're good at too, because you don't want to struggle with creating it, that it sets you back and you never finish doing it.
And also not only just what you're good at, but I think too, it's very important to, and again, this is where knowing your target audience comes in, because if you are targeting people who are doing videos for, you know, whatever, and you're giving them an ebook, you know, that's probably not going to be the right thing, because they're doing video. They want to see video. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be more interested in delivering videos. So knowing your target audience is also going to really help with how to deliver whatever solutions you're delivering.
Right. And you can also recycle them. Like if you, let's say if you create a video, you can get that transcribed and then, you know, also offer it as a PDF and also as just the audio version. Mm-hmm. And that's where hiring, like, you know, a virtual assistant comes into play. Someone to help you, because you don't have to do it all either. And it's a great feeling knowing that you'll do what you're good at and you can delegate what you need help with.
Oh yeah, that's a whole different thing. Don't even get me started.
Yeah, no, but it's so true. I really learned that, because I'm like, either I could spend a week learning how to do this myself, or I could just hire someone to help me with it and have it done, you know, in a day or two. And it just makes, you feel better because you're moving forward. And, you know, you might not have the money to do that initially, but as you grow, it's really important to not get stuck.
Yeah, and we've got some shows that are going to cover that. And I know we've got, by the time you're watching this one, we've already got one in the can that's covering that. So make sure you check out the other episodes. And we go really in depth about talking with virtual assistants. So, you know, what are the 3 steps to becoming an expert?
I kept them very simple, and I got a lot of this from Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Work Week. The first one is to do your research. You really have to go, and it's, you know, you can do your research on Google if you can't make it to a library, and read some of the blogs, find out what some of the top books are in your niche. And you know, I ordered like the top 3 books in my niche. You can go and look at magazines in your niche. So it's just, you know, you really have to do your research. The step 2 I have is to write or transform, and that's coming up with the solutions to their, say, top 5 challenges. You know, it's either an ebook, or some people write a book, or creating that audio or video series. But so it's research and then write, and then the last one I have is rehearsal, and that's actually getting out there and putting yourself out there. You know, you can go to your local library, or there's a lot of associations where you can give a workshop or talk about it, you know, and start putting, you know, just getting a name for yourself. It helps with people discovering you. So really rehearsing and just getting your message out there. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of places you can go and speak for free.
Oh yeah.
And you know, and it's like, it's just giving the exposure.
Well, and doing what we're doing right here, podcasts. Yep. There are thousands of podcasts in different genres, and they all need amazing guests with great messages, just like I do. So that's a really good way to start getting yourself known as an expert, is to get out there. I think that's, for me, probably the number 1 is you've got to get out there. You can research and write all you want, but if people aren't seeing you.
And the cell phones today, right? It makes it so easy.
Oh, it does. And, you know, if you live in a remote area, so there's not a whole lot of places to speak. We live in a technological world nowadays. I haven't done an in-person event in 10 years. I haven't networked in 10 years. I do everything online right now. And that's just kind of the way it's going, I think.
Yeah, you know, I had a Skype call with somebody earlier, and they don't even live in the U.S., and it's just,
Mhm.
you know, you wouldn't have been able to do that even 20 years ago. It's great, but
I
you know, one
know.
topic that I saw you speak on, which is also really important in my course I go over, is branding. You really need to brand yourself as an expert. You know, it doesn't have to cost money either. There's so many tools. Do you use Canva at all?
I do.
Yeah, I love Canva.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
use it a little bit, but I have a graphic designer, so
yeah.
she hates it when I try to do my own graphics. I get yelled at. She's like, "Will you just let me do it, please?" Yeah,
That's
she
great.
hates it when I touch the websites too, even though I do.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, come on, I've been doing this for 10 years. I can mess with the way on websites. She's like, don't touch it. Just leave it alone. That's mine.
That's right. You have a really interesting background too.
I do. I do. I do. So, okay, so let's talk about some other ways that maybe people can package or product their services.
They can, well, let's see. Sometimes people give like a, a free coaching session, and then they offer like a 3, 6, or 12 month coaching package together. You know, a lot of times people now are giving like virtual courses online. You know, like if you're a cook and people want to see how you're actually, you know, preparing the meals or what you're doing, you can do live calls. I mean, live, like either on Zoom or on Google Hangouts or Skype. You can hold classes like that, and you know, you can charge for them too. There are a lot of people that hold teleseminars, or they have webinars, but they charge for them.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, but I would say the most popular, like to begin with, is either like an ebook or some type of video course or some type of audio.
Hmm. Those are great freebies for list building for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And you definitely want to have some kind of a lead capture on your website so that you are getting people's
Hmm.
information. Like I talked about the Facebook group earlier, and having a Facebook group is great. I have almost 1,500 members right now, and it's a great little tribe. But it's Facebook. Not everybody's
Yeah,
gonna see it. Not everybody's online all at the same time. So
yeah.
getting them onto your list is really, really key for sure.
Yeah, on all of your social media, you always want to be sending them somewhere, and it should be, you know, if you're not having people sign up for a webinar or something, it really should be to your landing page that is going to have an opt-in, you know, because
Yeah.
I mean, that's the moneymaker is creating that relationship with them, as you know, and
Hmm.
building a rapport, and, you know, because once somebody buys something from you, they're very apt to continue buying something, you know, from
Right.
you.
They become a
Yeah.
warm lead after that. Um, yeah, you're talking about the know, like, and trust factor.
Yeah.
People buy from people they know, like, and trust. So you might get some cold or some low-hanging fruit that come and grab your stuff. But people really want to sample, and those freebies are really, really important for that. And it gives you another chance to position yourself as an expert with whatever your freebie is. It gives them that taste of, yeah, this person really does know their stuff. They do know what they're talking
Hmm.
about.
And they relate to you too, and they want to, you know, they get to know you, so they want to work with you. Because
Right.
let's just say if you're a coach, you know, a personal trainer, they could be looking at 10 different personal trainers and have opted into all of them, but you're going to really connect with one of them more than the other. So it gives them a chance to get to know your personality. And also, everybody's so skeptical today, you know.
Well, with good reason.
Yeah,
With good
yeah.
reason. I mean, there's good and bad in every industry. I see it in the
Hmm.
VA industry. I see it in the coaching industry. I see it in just about every industry I work. There's going to be the scammers, and you have to do your due diligence for sure.
Yeah, they
And
want to make sure that you're authentic, right, with your message. And
right. And one of the best ways for people to do their due diligence is to opt in and get your free stuff and
hmm
figure out if you're really the real thing. Um, and these freebies need to be actionable items. So if I come to your website and I'm wanting to learn about health and fitness, and I want to learn more about bodybuilding and that kind of thing, then your freebie had better be able to tell me something that I can take away and implement in my life right now.
I agree. Yeah, it has to be something that they can implement right away, and that's going to help them. And then they're going to want to, continue to be on your list so they can learn more. And then usually they'll have questions on it. So that's why they reach out to you and hire you for your services or purchase your product.
Right. And, we talked about webinars a little bit, and I mentioned that I did the webinar yesterday, and I've already had people reach out to me because they learned so much from the webinar that I gave. They know that I'm going to be the person that's going to help them to grow their VA business and ultimately reach that 6-figure mark, which is what they want. So it's just a really great way to position yourself as that expert.
And I see now a lot of people, which is a great tool, is offering freebies, when they sign up for their webinar. It's like kind of, if you've signed up for the webinar, then you get that free ebook or whatever that's going to help, or a checklist or a cheat sheet of, some sort that is going to help them. And that's interesting. I like that too. Yeah, the added bonus.
I gave them my slide deck. I didn't have time to create an extra freebie and stuff, but they got my slides. There was like 54 slides there. So they got all those tips and everything that go on my slides. So that was a good one for them. And I also give strategy sessions, which gives them a taste of what I can do and how I can help them, because it's basically a coaching session. And I don't sell. I'm not one of these to get on the strategy sessions and at the end, or even, halfway through, I start pitching you my coaching services. My sessions they're just a coaching session. And if at the end of it, you want to learn more about my coaching program, my coaching service is great. So it's a value add, and it I think helps people to trust you more, because you're not automatically trying to sell them as soon as you get them on the phone.
Yeah, coaching, I also offer a 30-minute coaching strategy. And I try to find out, I usually send them a questionnaire beforehand so I can, check out their business, maybe their social media profiles, everything, just so I can, you don't waste time on that call, and you can really dive in and help them with something. But it's, the more value you add in that call, the more they're apt to hire you. But, and it's really important, I think, to give these strategy calls, because rarely does somebody just say, oh, that coach looks great, I'm going to hire them off the bat. It's like they really want to build a little bit of a relationship with you, or just see how you work.
And that's how I hired my coach. I asked a question in a Facebook group, and he answered it. I loved his answer. He offered to give me, just a free session to talk more in depth about it. We got on the phone and we spent a half hour. He gave me amazing value the entire time, did not pitch me once. And at the end of the call, I said, how do I hire you? It was, it was like, there was no question in my mind. I had credit card in hand and I was ready to hire him.
Yeah, he did his job.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to become an expert in your field, you need to be the same way. So it can't always be direct out there, buy my stuff, hire me. You have to really show people that you're the right one for them to hire.
Yeah, and you don't have to be salesy at the end. You can even say something like, I like asking takeaway questions like, what's the most valuable tool that you discovered in our call that you're going to go and implement, today or tomorrow, or what was the most valuable tip that I provided that will help you. And so they're kind of saying back like how much, how helpful the session was. And then you can say, if you found value in this and you want to have additional calls, then I'll send you my information and you can go from there.
Yeah.
It's not aggressive or pushy.
No, that drives me crazy. And, and the same with your webinars. If you host a webinar, I'm going to give you this free tip because this is a huge pet peeve. You don't want your intro to be 10 minutes all about who you are and your background. Yep. And you don't want your sales pitch to be 30 minutes long. I went on this webinar one time for a funnels expert, And I was really kind of excited to get on this, even though I do funnels and I know funnels. I'm always trying to learn and better my skills and my knowledge. And so this woman's done, from what she says, tons and tons and thousands of dollars worth of funnels. And I thought, great, I'm sure I'll pick up a couple new things from her. There was maybe 15 minutes of meat in this whole webinar. The first 10 minutes or so was all about her and her background. Mm-hmm. She gave a little bit of content. It was all stuff I already knew. Mm-hmm. And I kid you not, her sales pitch, I was 35 minutes into the sales pitch when I finally hung up.
Yeah.
And, and the way they get you on it is stay till the end of the call and you'll get mm-hmm. a free gift, right? Mm-hmm. And which is great, but that gift was not important enough for me to be pitched to for so long. And I ultimately left her group, I left her list, and I unfriended her on Facebook because she really devalued herself in my eyes. Yeah, it went from expert to sleazy car salesman.
Yeah, and if you're the expert, it's like just give it all away, give your information away, because most people are so confused with all that information that they're going to need help. And I mean, that's such a great point, because a lot of times when I sign up for a webinar, I don't even log on until like 15 minutes after it started, because I know most people today just go on and on about who they are, what they've done, and it's great to give credibility, but that should just be
sure.
Like, you can do that in one slide. You don't need to go, and do that for 20 minutes.
Right. And yeah, and I'm the same way. I kind of give this exactly what I want to receive. So I know when I'm out speaking, I try and keep my intro, maybe 2 minutes max. Mm-hmm. I try to rush through it because they don't want to know about me.
Right.
They've probably already checked me out. Right. They want to know about what I'm about to teach them.
Yeah. I have that on one slide too. I just, it's like I said, it's important to just give some credibility to you, but because people do like to know a little bit about you.
Oh, sure.
They want to feel like they've connected with you in some way, but then just go right into the
if they were on your website when they signed up, chances are they probably went to your About page and read your bio and checked out who you were. They've seen you on the social networks, because that's probably where they found out about the webinar to begin with. Yeah. So, they're already starting to get to know you.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I also don't like it when I'm on a webinar and they give you like maybe a hint of what they're going to help with, and then then they're like, oh, we ran out of time, so if you want to really get the true answers, then buy my course buy my stuff. That is just like, it's so frustrating.
And I always have the opposite. I was like, I looked at my clock yesterday in the middle of this webinar, and I was 45 minutes in and wasn't even halfway through my content. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to haul butt through the rest of this content. And so I even stopped and I said, look, I just looked at the time. I still have a lot to teach you. We're probably going to go over. If you don't stay, you can't stay. I totally get it. You're going to get the replay. So you can listen to it later. I want to be mindful of your time. I'm going to go through this as quickly as I can. So as soon as I realized that, I think that kind of, because I know if I'm on a call and somebody says that to me, that's like, they really value my time.
Right.
And that's very important. So.
And I don't think people can, everybody's so busy today. To set aside an hour is probably a good allotted amount of time to expect them to be on. But once you go into maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours, that's usually pretty tough for most people.
I was on one, and the content was good. The content was probably about 45 minutes or so, and there was like 3 hours of Q&A.
Wow.
I didn't even stay on. I was like, I stayed on for maybe another hour or so, because it was great Q&A. Uh-huh. He promised that he would stay on until everybody's questions were answered, and that's great. But that's a long time to stay on a call.
That's a very long time to stay on a call.
I just kind of said at the end of mine, I was like, I know you guys have to go. I've got to go. Here's my email. Send me your questions. And they did. I had several people email me with questions that they needed some more clarification on. And that was wonderful. I was able to give them some more clarification. I said, let's get on a phone call. Here's the link to sign up for my strategy session. And, we can go into this more in depth.
And it's great that people know that they can reach out to you, because so many people aren't either approachable, or they just, I have sent emails to a couple, this was a few years ago, just, a couple of people that were really gaining momentum and successful. And I never heard back from them. And that really frustrated me, because I'm like, how can you be that busy? You're telling people to send an email to you, and then you're just too busy to, to respond. It's like, even have your assistant or someone to say that you'll get back. And I sent it more than once, so it's like, I'm sure they got the email, but to me, that really, they lost a lot of credibility. Because if you say you're going to do something, you need to follow through and actually, make sure that you do it.
Yeah. So, I know it may seem to those who are listening that maybe we kind of got off track, because I know we started out talking about niches, but, the other step in this was how to become the go-to expert in your field. And what we're talking about right now, all these, just these little nuances that we've experienced or that we've done, is going to help you as you figure out what kind of an expert you want to be. Do you want to be the high and mighty, snooty, I'm too good for anybody? Or do you want to be that down to earth, I am here to help you. That is my goal. That is my mission. That is my passion. I don't care how busy I am. I will answer your email type expert. And I can guarantee you that that expert is going to get a lot more traction than the high and mighty snooty one who's too busy, because they're, now 7 figures and they've done they've hit their goals. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't want you to think, if you're listening to this, you're like, they kind of went off on a tangent there. We really didn't. All of these that we're talking about are just ideas and tips and things that you can take away to say, okay, I want to be an expert in my field, and this is the kind of expert that I want to be.
That's very true, because I think that people are so busy today, like we've said, that they want to connect with someone who is authentic. Mm-hmm. So the people who in the past have had this real salesy approach, they're not having the same success anymore that they used to, because I think people are just tired of that.
Right.
And they can see right through that.
Yeah. And I get, you get to that point where you're making multiple 7 figures, and you probably are going to be too busy, because you're going to get hundreds of emails a day. Mm-hmm. But by that point, you're going to have a team that can field most of those questions and still provide that value that people need.
Exactly. There's really no excuse for that. You should have an assistant that can, or, you have a team at that point, and they really need to make that a priority, because anyone who's going to be your client, they want to feel like they get a little VIP treatment. And by you responding to that email will make them, trust you, and they feel special that you responded to them. So they're probably going to go on and hire you for something or buy your product.
I've had people message me, and I'll message them back, and they're like, oh my God, I didn't think you'd really ever respond. And it just kind of went all fangirl, and I was like, seriously, I'm not that big. I'm not that big. So, calm down. I still put my pants on just like you do.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you are, you are putting yourself out there in a big way. And I think people, probably feel like, because you are, that maybe you are too busy, but there's some very successful people that always make time for their fans or the people that really need their help. And that's an important tip that you've provided. That
right. And I do a lot of these discovery calls, and I go into them knowing full well these people will not be able to hire me today, and I know that. And I understand that my time is incredibly valuable, but I go into these calls, knowing that my main purpose, my goal, my mission has always been to help other people. That is why I became a virtual assistant in the first place, was because my favorite question is, how can I help you? And it still is. And, so it's not always about the money, because they may not be able to hire me today, but, a couple months down the road, after they've taken my advice and they've started implementing what I've taught them, and they have the money to hire me, guess where they're going to go?
Yeah.
They're going to go to the person that took the time, even though I know that I wasn't going to get anything out of it financially, to, to help them when they were just struggling and getting started and really needing that help. So, think about what kind of expert you want to be.
And it's also good to have a referral program, because if somebody can't afford you right then, sometimes they might know of other people that can afford you. And so, if you have a good referral, plan, then that motivates them to go out and refer people to you too. And that might help pay for itself right there.
Absolutely. Wow, this has been really fun.
I really enjoyed it. We could go on for hours.
I know, I could. I'm like looking at my clock going, okay, we've got to probably cut this short now, because I want to be mindful of our listeners' time as well. So, Carol, thank you so much for coming on and imparting your wisdom with us. Listeners, thank you for tuning in and listening to what we had to say. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Go to the Facebook page, post your questions there. Carol's all over the internet too. I've seen her on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for retweeting all my stuff, by the way.
You're welcome. And thank you for today.
I don't think I actually got on Twitter and thank you for retweeting something I posted the other day. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay.
Thank you again.
You bet. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next episode.